Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Got question Chase, has got the facts, talking NFL numbers, he's got your back. A little chart trend ball, man, he's got it like that. Chasing data by do champions. Chasing data applies to everyone. Chasing data, yeah, we're live today. Chasing data for always. Chasing data by do champions.
What's up, and welcome to the second week of the off-season power rankings. If you're new to this, we are deep diving with all 32 teams, starting at 32, working our way all the way up to number 1 as we go through the off-season. These power rankings are flexible. They can be moved. Teams can go up and down as the off-season progresses. But like I said, if you're new to this is all numbers-based. This is more ones and zeros than X's and O's. So I think my background kind of gives a hint of who we're talking about here in this episode. Let's go ahead and look at where we came from. We were previously at, let's bring up the rankings here. So previously, last week, we did 32, which was the Jets, and 31, which was the Titans. And these rankings are based on where these teams are at as of today. You know, this, like I said, is very flexible, can be moved, and will be moved throughout the season as teams make signings, as they do their draft process. As we get through to and through the draft, they will definitely move. But moving into team number 30, no need to hold anything up, Las Vegas Raiders. I mean, they could easily be lower than this. I think what keeps them from being 31 or 32 is the fact that they do have dominant players on the field. The Titans do have Jeffrey Simmons. The Jets have no one. Breece Hall maybe, but I don't think he's dominant. Whereas the Raiders, they do have the likes of Brock Bowers and Max Crosby and potentially Ashton Genty, who we're going to talk about probably ad nauseum during this episode. But, you know, just looking back, so what I do, I'm going to go through where this team came from last year, their strengths and weaknesses, what additions they may have made. It'll be few and far between prior to the draft, obviously, but what subtractions we're expecting this season, where can they improve, what their cap situation looks like, what's their schedule look like, how many wins are we predicting for them, and what's their outcome look like, their best case scenario, worst case scenario, and what I expect from them as a team in 2026. But like I said, going back to what they did last year, they were dead last in points per game. We know this offense was terrible. Geno was a shell of himself. They had 14.2 points per game, 245 yards per game, a minus 0.22 EPA per play, among the worst in the NFL, a 37% success rate, well below league average, and 4.4 yards per play. That's anemic numbers if we're looking at the offense. Lost my spot there. I apologize. But going back to what they had last year, I mean, it wasn't much to really talk about. They were 3-14. Their over under now is already out and about, and it's 5.5 wins. They're plus 20,000 to be the champs this year. That's 30th best odds in the league. Plus 10,000 to win the AFC. It's 15th best, and they're plus 3,000 to win the AFC West. Last place. Last year they started 2-4, and then they end up losing 9 straight. They do bring in the likes of Clint Kubiak, offensive guru in Seattle, really revitalized what Sam Darnold was. He did do good in Minnesota, but took him to another level and made his highs even higher in Seattle. Last year, the Raiders were god-awful. They were 31st in EPA per play, like I said. Seattle was 14th. They were 28th in EPA per pass, where Seattle was 8th. And they were dead last in EPA per rush 2 years in a row now. Seattle was 25th. So see what we can do with the run game. But the last playoff win by the Raiders franchise was all the way back in 2003. The offensive coordinator, we're just going to say it's Clint Kubiak, but they brought in the QB coach from Seattle. The defensive coordinator is Rob Leonard, who was Las Vegas's D-line coach. It's interesting that they promoted in-house from a defense that was not great to begin with. They were 18th in sacks with 37. They were 30th in QB pressure rate at 28%, but third in stuff rate. D-line against the run game was well above average, as you can see here. But like I said, their offense struggled, and we're gonna come back to the weaknesses, strengths, and weaknesses as we go through this. But with their additions, let's look at their depth chart first. Depth chart here. If you see what I'm looking at, the black are players that are injured right now, I believe. The green are the ones that are free agents. A lot of people are probably leaving this roster. Doesn't really matter because they weren't that great to begin with. So what I did with these teams prior to the draft is I did a mock draft, and I go through and try to draft based on what I think they will, what they will and what they should do in the draft for 2026. So they have number 1 overall pick. I think it's all but a given that they're going to take Fernando Mendoza, barring some outlandish thing happening. Mendoza, like I said, is expected to be number 1 by the Raiders. He entered the 2025 season already projected to be a first rounder, but him leading the Hoosiers to a national championship, he played his way to the top of every board, pretty much. I mean, he's the one quarterback that's a first-round talent, probably. I know Ty Simpson could possibly go in the first round, but that's because there's really no other quarterbacks to choose from. Even if his physical traits don't really wow you, Mendoza has the awareness and accuracy and intangibles that make him an easy quarterback to bet on and appreciate. So we know they're taking him at 1. In the second round, Colton Hood, cornerback. I mean, they have a lot of issues on this team, and we're going to get into their strengths and weaknesses, but we're going straight into the draft first. Hood checks boxes for his size, his speed, his physicality, and catch point skills. I mean, his weakness is that he's developing on route anticipation from off coverage, but he plays sticky man-to-man, so I mean, that kind of covers up his flaws at times, and can do well as a run defender. He had an up-and-down Senior Bowl, but I still think he could go potentially in the first round. We will see. Then with their third pick, I have them taking another wide receiver, Chris Bell. I don't know if he's going to make it to 67, but assuming that he does, like he did in this mock draft, the wide receiver out of Louisville, I mean, he passes the eye test easily with his size and acceleration, and he displays the versatility to be both a bully possession target and a run-after-catch weapon. The ACL injury is maybe what makes him drop this far, but I don't think it's going to happen. He was probably about 20, 30 spots higher than this prior to that ACL. but I still think he goes up higher. I mean, these players return sooner and sooner from these types of injuries. Going forward, I'm just going to gloss over these, having them taking interior offensive lineman at 102, another cornerback. We know the offensive line was an issue. We're going to go back through all these strengths and weaknesses. Safety at 134, edge player. I mean, they have so many needs that it's kind of hard to be like, oh, you're wasting too much draft capital on this one area. But that's the draft. I mean, everybody has the mock draft. Let's go back to their current makeup of their roster. And like I said, we talked about their offense and how putrid it was. Geno Smith, 67% completion rate, 200 yards per game, but that was mostly due to the fact that he was playing from behind. 6.8 yards per attempt, well below league average. 0.06 EPA per play. Surprising that it was positive, to be honest with you. His 17 interceptions and his ability to push the ball downfield really hampered this offense all season. It was that game against the Chargers, I believe, on Monday Night Football early in the season, where he was like 0 for 10 or 11 on passes that were 10-plus air yards. It was like the most in NGS history. And then he had 2 or 3 interceptions in that same game. I mean, it was just a lot of terrible gameplay, and it just continued to spiral as the season went on. You could say Ashton Jeanty is a bright spot on this offense. Yes and no. He had 1,300 total yards, over 300 touches, 10 touchdowns. 3.2 yards after contact per touch. I mean, he still had that elite ability to stay upright on all these carries. He's definitely going to be a focal point in the offense going forward. We know that. We know what Ashton Jeanty could be based on what he did in during his time at Boise State. I mean, let's see. Their weaponry to continue. Brock Bowers. We know what Brock Bowers could be. He only appeared in 12 games last year, started only 8, still put up a 64, 680, and 7 touchdown stat line. His receiving EPA was higher in those 12 games last year than the 17 in the year prior. I mean, this guy is a top 5 tight end already. You could argue that he's even better than that. I just want to see what he's going to do once he has a quarterback. Ashton Jeanty, he was below 1,000, right below 1,000 yards on the ground at 975, which was good for 18th. He did, however, just have 3.8 yards per carry. We know how many times he was hit in the backfield. He had a minus 69 rush EPA, so the advanced numbers do not favor him too much. 32% success rate out of all qualifying running backs, which were around 38 running backs. And that's the worst. And you can't say, oh, he faced a stacked box, because he faced the stacked box at just 16% of the time, which is 43rd lowest in the NFL. So there was 44 qualifying running backs. But on the bright side, going back to what he was able to do, he did break the team record, the franchise record for total scrimmage yards by a rookie that was held by Josh Jacobs. And he also became just the second running back to have the second rookie to have 10 or more touchdowns in their rookie season for the Raiders. When you look at the weaknesses on this team, you have Geno Smith. We already talked about him. There's no need to go on about this because we know what he's not going to be the starter. They're taking Mendoza. And when you look at their win rates on the line, as far as pass block win rate, they were 22nd. So the offensive line was not good against holding up against the pass. In their run block win rate, they were also 22nd. So, I mean, Jeanty didn't really have a leg to stand on for the majority of the time. Secondary was an issue. The D-line outside of Max Crosby, for the majority of the time, they weren't great. I mean, they had the 3rd worst point differential in the NFL last year. I mean, this team just were not able to stay in games. And you could argue that some of these units were some of the worst in the NFL. They still have some talent around Brock Bowers and Ashton Jeanty. They have Trey Tucker, who became an emerging deep threat. He had that 3-touchdown game against the Commanders last year. It was like the most touchdowns versus zone coverage in like the last 3 or 4 years, something like that. They did trade away Jacoby Myers, who went and played amazingly in Jacksonville. The offensive line was such a weakness, though. They allowed 3.8 sacks per game, 64 on the season, which was the same number that the Denver Broncos had as far as defensive sacks that led the NFL. Had terrible run pass balance, 369 rushing attempts versus 579 pass plays. Again, that was due to them being so far behind. I'm sure, Brian, I'm sure. Offensive line was just another weakness. There's a ton of weaknesses on these low-ranked teams. The defense, you could argue, was potentially the worst in the NFL. 320 yards allowed per game, 5 yards per play, among the worst in the NFL. They kind of broke even versus overall, but against the pass, their numbers against, I mean, they were amongst the worst, are the worst against the pass as far as EPA allowed per pass all season, and they ended up finishing 10th. They did bounce back towards the end, but this defense was terrible. A 44% success rate. The pass defense allowed 214 pass yards per game, which is saying something, being that they were playing from behind, so the other teams weren't really passing. Only 8 interceptions, 37 sacks, just 2.2 per game, while they were giving up 3.8 per game. The run defense allowed 117 yards per game. And I mean, it's not great all around. So if you just were to summarize their weaknesses going into 2026, you have the quarterback, Geno. We know it's going to be Mendoza. The defensive personnel, the entire unit just needs an overhaul. Potentially the worst, if not one of the worst in the NFL. The pass rush, they have Max Crosby. Malcolm Kuntz, who was somewhat of a bright spot, is a free agent. So they're going to have to bring someone else in. That's if they do hang on to Max Crosby at this point. Spytech did not shut that down in interviews, saying that anyone's tradable, basically. The secondary, just 8 interceptions. I mean, they allow too many pass yards in general. Offensive line, another weakness. No true wide receiver one. You don't want to count Brock Bowers as your wide receiver one. And we're going to see what Kubiak could do that Pete Carroll could not as a coach. So, if you were to look at their offseason priorities when you're looking at this roster, in the draft, they have to take their franchise quarterback. Obviously, is going to be Mendoza. They need to get another elite edge rusher, especially if they move on from Max Crosby. Am I a Dolphins fan? No, I have a shirt of just about every team, but kind of hints at what team I'm going to talk about next tonight. They're ranked 29th in my rankings, thus the shirt tonight for the Dolphins. They also need a cornerback, multiple cornerbacks, offensive tackle. I mean, there's just and I hit on that a lot with my mock draft. They also have free agency and a lot of cap. I mean, we're going to get into the cap here. Let's just go straight to it now. They're only losing, prior to the cap, they're only losing, of note, Malcolm Kuntz, Jamal Adams, Dylan Parham. Parham was 19th in pass block win rate amongst all interior offensive linemen, so pretty good. Outside of that, I mean, we already went over their weaknesses so much and who they're losing. So when you look at their cap situation, they currently have $88 million in cap space for that top 51, the 51 that's on the roster, second most in the NFL, just $225 million committed, and a $35 million dead cap hit, and that's mostly due to Christian Wilkins and Jacoby Myers. So they have a ton of money that could go around. Their top contracts this year are based on like total value, average value. Max Crosby, Geno Smith, Colton Miller, Ashton Genty, which is crazy that he's the 4th highest total contract value on this team. Tyree Wilson's still on the books, a swing and a miss, and Daniel Carlson is the 6th highest value on this team, which is wild. Emmett says, I'm a Dolphins fan, and I pray we get Malik Willis or Caleb Downs in the draft. Oh, and Caleb Downs in the draft. Yeah, the Dolphins have a ton of defensive issues. Malik, we're going to see if he ends up there. I don't know that he does. It would be good for the Dolphins, but we will see. I am interested to see what they are able to do with him and what they're going to do with Tua. When you look at the schedule for the Raiders, we don't know when they're going to play these teams. We just know at what point that they're going to play them at some point this season. So when you do a quick run through of the schedule, they play these are home games: Broncos, Chiefs, Chargers, Bills. All 4 of those are probably losses on the surface. They do play the Dolphins, winnable game. then the Rams, Seahawks, and Titans. Another winnable game out of those home games. When you look at the away, they're going to be hard-pressed to get a win in this division against the Broncos, Chiefs, and Chargers. They do play the Cardinals and the Browns away, then the Patriots, Saints, Jets, and 49ers. So if Mendoza is able to come in here and put up, a good show and show that he's able to do some things on this with this offense, we could see something potentially semi good. Sometimes you get these quarterbacks in the first year and they succeed well beyond what we expect. Even though he's going to be the number one quarterback, their draft this year, going back to their draft, they currently have the second highest draft capital based on the Harvard Sports Analysis Collective. It takes into consideration what picks they have and where at in the draft, and they're second highest only behind the Jets, and with the quantity of picks that they have. One last thing, where's it at? Did I have it? I thought I had it on here, but I don't. So I have them. That's roughly 5-6 wins. When you look at the sports books and do they have any good odds for anyone? Currently, MVP favorite is Mendoza at plus 40,000. Offensive Player of the Year is Genty at plus 4,000. Defensive Player of the Year is Max Crosby, who has the second best odds out of anyone at plus 800. Kubiak is at plus 2,200, 12th best odds, which I thought was wild because if he comes in and can rattle off 10 wins somehow. I mean, we've seen these first-year coaches do it. Look at what Mike Vrabel did last year. Most improved player on this team that I could project or expect to see it happening is Ashton Genty. Let's see that explosiveness in the run game again, and the run game improvement altogether. Drop-off candidates, I mean, it wasn't really anyone great enough that I think could potentially drop off. If they're able to bring back Devin White, I would say him because he just played out of his mind based on where he had played before in Las Vegas. X factors, I try to stay away from the quarterback or the coach, but I mean, honestly, I think it's Mendoza and Kubiak and how they're going to gel in this offense and what can they do to just take a step forward for once, try to get the ball rolling into a positive manner for Las Vegas in the years to come. We don't expect them to win the division next year. We don't even expect them to compete for a wild card. But we would like to see some improvement based on what we've seen the last, 3 years now. They've been terrible. Best case scenario for this team is Mendoza comes in and has that sensational rookie season, can push them in the right direction, gets Genty going, gets Brock Bowers involved. They also hit in the draft. Like I said, they have the second most draft capital. They also need a lot of help on the defense. I think the defense is farther away, obviously, than the offense. We know they're getting Mendoza at 1, and they already have weapons on the offense. So if they can come in and that offense can be 18th best in the NFL, and the defense can just not be bottom 4, maybe push it up to 24th, 22nd, potentially, with the likes of Rob Leonard at the helm now. Can they get to 7 wins? 7-10 would be best case scenario, honestly, for this team. We can't get too extravagant with what we think will happen with the Raiders. Worst case scenario, they have to take Mendoza at 1 because they obviously need a quarterback, and nothing comes of it. I mean, if Mendoza's terrible, they're just going to be back into the top 5 picking next year. I don't want to put the weight of the world on his shoulders, but, he has to come in and show something as the number 1 overall pick. So worst case scenario is that they just have too many holes to fill. This is a lot. This is a recurring theme for these teams, and they're 3-14 again. Realistically, I expect them to go around 5-12, 6-11. Mendoza's going to have his ups and downs, but the team is going to be able to show some promise toward the future. Kubiak can bring his offensive mindset. The defense will improve. It won't be as bad as they were, and they'll be looking towards the future. So that is the Las Vegas Raiders, and we will take a quick break, and then we'll go into team number 29. I'm sure you can guess who it is.
For the best Italian food in Western New York, Elliott Apollos, call 716-825-3675. The Lardon Construction Group.
Fubo TV, the official streaming service of Do Champions. FanDuel, the official sportsbook of Do Champions.
For all your summertime needs, beauty pools, as well as kayak pools.
CX Chronicles, your total customer solutions focused manager. W.GG, the official energy drink of Do Champions.
Hey, Sons of Erie, our artwork looks better on your walls. Hamburg Brewing, please visit our tap room on Boston State Road, Hamburg, New York. And finally,
Fat Boy Surf Club for all your surfing needs.
So, let's go ahead and change this for the second part. There we go. That's more like it. So, I do not want my team to have Allen. He is not good anymore. He's a little crazy holding on to the ball, but I'm saying he's not good. Maybe a slight stretch, but to each their own opinion. So, we've done 3 teams. Now we go to 29. I think it's already given away based on my background and my shirt. But team number 29, this is wild that a 7-10 record team is down to number 29 just in one off season. But it is obviously the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins, They had their highs and their lows, and I think it's going to get a lot worse before it gets a lot better for this team. We know that what they were able to do under Mike McDaniel, and I thought they did a lot better. Excuse me. They did a lot better than, what we would have thought they were going to do once the wheels started to fall off. Mike McDaniel did keep them playing and keep them close in games. So I'm curious to see where they go from here. It's going to be a complete rebuild, and they're going to have a lot of dead cap is the synopsis of it. But like I said, last year they were 7-10, but Vegas currently has them at an over-under of 4.5 wins. They have the worst odds to be the Super Bowl champs at plus 30,000. They're last in the conference at plus 15,000, and they're last in the AFC East to win it at plus 3,000. A trend that I have here is that the bottom 4 teams are currently all AFC teams. I'm sure we'll have some NFC next week. The bottom 6 cannot all be AFC. New head coach this year is Jeff Hafley. In Green Bay, he was the defensive coordinator for 2 years, where he was just 21st in EPA allowed per play, so not the best amongst defenses in NFL. Miami was 24th in EPA allowed per play, 24th versus the pass, and 25th versus the run. They do bring in Bobby Slowick, who, now that C.J. Stroud looked terrible in the playoffs last year, how much of that was on Slowick versus C.J. Stroud? When you look at Slowick, he was 12th and 22nd in yards per game rank for the Houston Texans in those 2 years. Points, he was 13th and 19th. The Dolphins last year were 25th in EPA per play, 22nd in the pass, 25th in the run. Surprisingly, fifth best, I say surprisingly, but they had the 5th best quarterback pressure rate allowed last year, and that was a lot to do with the fact that this offense was predicated on the quick game. Get the ball in, get the ball out, snap. Tua knew where he was going with the ball, and that was that. Defense coordinator is Sean Dugan. It's going to be Jeff Hafley, honestly, but Dugan was the linebacker coach in Green Bay. And you look at what he did with the likes of Quay Walker and his resurgence over the last year or two. So when you look at the strengths and weaknesses of this team, let's bring up their roster. So looking at their roster, again, the green names are players that are free agents going into the 2026 offseason. They are likely losing. These are players that are free agents. They can try to bring them back, but we know how that works. They are likely losing Darren Waller, who had some highs. Cole Strange at right guard. Excuse me. Tyreek Hill is already out. They released him. He's out. He was coming back from injury. Anyways, they are also losing Ashton Davis. Bradley Chubb has already also been cut. I thought that said Jalen Phillips, but that says Jordan Phillips. My bad. Bradley Chubb, I think he had 8.5 sacks last year. So they're already starting the rebuild. They do still have some firepower on that defensive line for sure, but they have a lot of holes on this team. The strengths on this team would be the likes of Jalen Waddle and Devon Achane. I mean, these two, I mean, you could get better, but they were pretty good. I mean, not the greatest, but I mean, Achane's a top 5 running back, arguably. Jalen Waddle accounted for 43% of the Dolphins' air yards last year, and no other player had more than 15%. I mean, it jumped up to 51% after week 5 whenever Tyreek Hill was injured. Achane, his numbers have just gotten better each year. He went from 800 to 907 to 1350 rush yards in 2025. His yards per carry got higher and higher. He had a rush EPA that improved as the season went on. I mean, he was such a weapon out of the backfield as well. The front four on the defensive side. Sorry, let's go back to Aaron Brewer. Aaron Brewer, 9th best interior offensive lineman as far as pass block win rate in the NFL. Front four, I thought was great, but everything was 16th or worse. So, I mean, they have to do some things to make it better, but they could, I do believe. We're going to see what they can do as all my notes disappear. That's interesting. Very good. Well, we'll just talk about everything on the fly now. The weaknesses for this team. Boy, did they have some weaknesses. They are losing a quarterback. They don't have a quarterback now. You don't want to go with Quinn Ewers. Why is this not coming up? Whatever. You don't want to go with Quinn Ewers. He had limited time last year, and it was not the best as far as quarterback play goes. They're losing Tyreek Hill. They're losing their weapons. Let's see. Try one more thing. Just get out of it altogether. They're losing their weapons. Their offensive line, you can say it was good, but I mean, a lot of that was predicated on the fact that the offense ran through Mike McDaniel and what he knew to do to get the most out of it. Now that they're going to be moving at a slower pace, probably with Bobby Slowick, it's not as much of a quick game as what they had with Tua and Mike McDaniel. I'm interested to see how it's going to work and what they're going to do with quarterback. They do have Jalen Waddle, but they don't really have any receiving weapons outside of that. They have Malik Washington, who was okay at times. Devon Achane is their second best pass catcher. They don't have a tight end on the roster. Julian Hill, Jalen Conyers. I don't even know who Jalen Conyers is. But we will see what they can do as far as the offense in 2026. When you look at the defense was absolutely terrible. The secondary was one of the worst, if not the worst, in the NFL. This defense struggled to stop a nosebleed for the majority of the season. When you look at their advanced numbers, let's see, you can slice it just about any way, and it wasn't really that good at all. As far as EPA allowed per play, like I said earlier, they were 9th worst against the pass. They were worse than this at some point, but they finished 8th worst. Quarterback pressure rate, they finished the season. It's the 7th worst quarterback pressure rate team. I mean, there was nothing that was just absolutely great about this team, and it showed for the most part. As far as explosive runs allowed, they had the 7th most with 60 of them. I mean, it was just any way you sliced it, they were bad. They're losing some players, especially on the back end of that defense. If you had to pick a high point of this team, it was Jordan Brooks because he led the NFL in tackles last year. Zach Sealer's still there, solid interior or rush defensive end. Kenneth Grant didn't really play that great to be a first-round pick last year. They also have Chop Robinson, who can get after the quarterback as well. When you look at their offensive and defensive line as a whole, though, as far as the offensive line, their pass block win rate was just 59%, the 8th worst in the NFL, and their run block win rate, 3rd worst in the NFL. As far as the defensive line, they were 23rd against as far as pass rush win rate and 21st as far as run stuff win rate. I mean, it's just not good anyway you slice it. So when you look at what they can add in the offseason, I mean, obviously they have no cap space. They're currently -4. They're $4 million over the cap right now, and they still have to restructure some of these contracts. What's going to happen with Tua? They already got rid of Tyreek Hill and Bradley Chubb. So, like I said, this is a real rebuild team. And the other problem with this is that when you look at draft capital for this team, they say it's a problem, but they have the 6th highest amount of draft capital based on Harvard's numbers for the draft. So they really need to hit in the draft. But like I said, they're really not going to be spending in free agency. We all know that. So when you look at their mock draft that I did for them, they have the 11th overall pick, and I had them taking a cornerback out of LSU with their first round pick. They have so many holes, but that secondary was just so god awful. There's not going to be a quarterback at 11. So obviously they're not going Ty Simpson at 11. So you take best player available. I mean, even though he doesn't have elite length or athletic upside, he's fluid to open and has enough speed to stay in phase against whether it's vertical or in breaking routes. Like he can do both. It's easy to project him as a starter regardless of scheme or alignment. I think you go with the sure thing, and at 11, I think he will be the sure thing. He allowed 0 touchdowns and committed 0 penalties in all of 2025. In the second round at 43, they do need wide receiver help, like I spoke on earlier. I have them taking Omar Cooper Jr. out of Indiana, the national champion. He has above average strength, athletic freak at times. I mean, and he's always competitive at the catch point. His run after catch skills will help separate him on draft day, honestly, is what I see from him. And they need someone to kind of replace that Tyreek role and what they had and what they're losing with him. Third round, AJ Hawsey, safety out of LSU. He is Mr. Gimme That in high school because of his high rate of turnovers that he caused. They need some turnover luck in 2026 if they're going to be in some of these games. 87th pick, offensive line. They got to replace some of these issues that they're having. Connor Lew out of Auburn. 90th overall pick, 3 picks later. Like I said, they don't have a tight end that anyone knows on this roster. So if they don't sign someone in free agency, what are they going to do? They have Max Clare, tight end out of Ohio State. I don't know if he's going to last to pick number 90. I mean, he's a solid athlete. And, I mean, we saw what these tight ends have done in the past year with Tyler Warren, Harold Fannin Jr., and Colston Loveland all coming in and being top 10 tight ends by the end of the season. With their 111th pick, I have Devin Moore, who is a top 100 talent on a lot of draft boards, and I got him at 111 in this. He's impressive as far as size, speed goes amongst his athletic counterparts. He didn't have the college career many expected, but again, the secondary was so terrible. You still want to give him, you don't want to get more throws at the dartboard with cornerback, in my opinion. And then I have it finishing up, taking another defensive lineman and taking a flyer on a quarterback. We saw what Brock Purdy did. Can they do something with Taylor Green out of Arkansas? So we'll see if those actually hit. As far as free agency, they have to rework this cap first before they can sign literally anyone. Because like I said, right now they're currently $4 million over, and they have $74 million in dead cap, and that's mostly due to Tyreek, Jalen Ramsey, Teron Armstead. I mean, this team is in cap hell. Their biggest contracts they still have, a $212 million contract, average $53 million a year. And then they have the likes of Waddle at 28 on average salary. Zach Sealer is third at 21. Then you have Minka and not Bradley Chubb, sorry. Misspoke. Austin Jackson after that at $12 million. So when you get to the schedule of this team, like I said, we know the home games and the away games. We don't know when they play them. So when you do a very topical look, they play the Bills and the Patriots both twice. They're going to be hard-pressed to win any of those 4 games. Let's say they take one of the 4, though. Then they play the Jets twice. They could potentially win both of those. Other home games they have are against the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Bears, the Lions, and the Bengals. It's going to be hard to get any of those wins, potentially get a win against the Bengals. But when you go to their away schedule, they play the Raiders, potential win. Vikings, you never know what you're going to get out of them. The Packers, the Colts, who don't have a quarterback because Daniel Jones has a torn Achilles, the Broncos, and the Niners. So not the easiest schedule for the Miami Dolphins in 2026. So you could roughly see 5 or 6 wins off of that roster. I mean, off of that schedule right there. When you look at MVP odds, Quinn Ewers at plus 50,000 is their MVP favorite. Their most improved player, I mean, if they don't take a quarterback, probably has to be Quinn Ewers. But the defense as a whole, especially the secondary, it's the same issues that I've talked about time and again. They just have to improve as a unit, not as one player. Drop-off candidates, I mean, do they have anyone that could potentially drop off? Not necessarily. Achane, just because his usage was so high, potentially he takes a step back as far as what his numbers look like in 2025. And outside of that, I don't really see anyone. X factors, Jeff Hafley and this defense. Can he bring this defensive mindset that he brought from Boston College up to Green Bay and back down south now to Miami? Can he do something with this defense to make them the 20th best unit in the NFL? Outside of him, the DB room improvement, honestly, that's if we're ignoring the quarterback as far as X factors go. So as far as outlooks for this team, I mean, they have best case scenario. They're working through their cap woes no matter what. They somehow find a quarterback of the future, whether that's Quinn Ewers or take a day 3 pick potentially. I don't think they go above that with a quarterback. I mean, do they sign Malik Willis in free agency? They have to do some miracles as far as cap goes as of right now. And they could finish around 7-10 with a defense that looks young, that won't be great, but won't be such a detriment to this team. Achane is still great. They still have weapons between he and Jalen Waddle, and they're able to get 7 wins again, but in a different way than what they've done in years past. Will this be the Hall of Fame game in August? What, Dolphins at Raiders? I have no idea. Raider Nation, good vibes only. You just missed it. If you want to hear my complete breakdown of the Raiders, go check it out on YouTube at King NFL Stats. It'll be up probably tomorrow. Worst case scenario for the Dolphins is they still don't have a quarterback, which I think is very realistic. They stay in cap hell. The defense is just too bad. They're trying to recover from the Mike McDaniel era, and they go from 7 wins down to like 4 or so. But my realistic expectation for this team is that Hafley can improve the defense somewhat. They get a quarterback to build around. The defense is around 24th overall. Achane is still the focal point, and they go 5-12, 6-11. I think that's potential for this team. Les says, I'm glad that the Chargers got Mike McDaniel. Yeah, I'm curious to see what he's going to be able to do. They go from Greg Roman, one of the worst offensive coordinators over the past decade, to Mike McDaniel, one of the greatest offensive minds. Raiders win 4 or 5 games next year. Yeah, their current over-under is 5.5, and I have them going 5-12 just as a topical quick overview of their schedule for 2026. Clint Kubiak will have a pretty decent offense on his hands. Yes, if they can improve that offensive line, Mendoza is semi-reasonably good as a quarterback. I mean, they still have Genty. They have Brock Bowers. They have Trey Tucker, who is emerging as a pass catcher last year, especially after the departure of Jacoby Myers. So the offense definitely has some potential. It's going to depend a lot on Kubiak and Ashton Genty and what they can do with that run game. But so that's it for this week's episode. We currently are up to 4 teams being ranked so far. And we have the Jets at 32, the Titans at 31, the Raiders at 30, and the Dolphins at 29. A 7-10 team dropping all the way to 29. They are in quite a bad situation right now. 74 million dead cap. So we'll see what they do going forward. But they have a big hole to climb out of. Next week, we will do 28 and 27. Hopefully, we'll get some NFC teams in here. We have 4 AFC teams right now as the 4 worst teams in the NFL. But if you don't already, please follow all social media platforms at King NFL Stats to keep up with all statistics on all 32 teams. Appreciate everybody stopping by. Catch you next week.